Hey folks, this is the X's and O's of life, and I'm Rich, and I have Glen Tickle, which I'm not gonna lie, I love your last name, and I feel like if comedy didn't work out for you, you could definitely work in porn. So
Yeah,
yeah, so that would be a fun little kind of fallback option if you stop making people giggle.
it's good to know. It's
Yeah,
good to know at
well,
least one person would be watching.
there you. Well, I mean, yeah, I'll advocate for you. Whatever.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Whatever
I think it's. I
promotion
don't
I
think you can
can
really
get.
watch porn with someone that you actually had a conversation with. I think that kind of just makes it
I
weird.
feel like it would be weird.
Yeah, it's
You
like more
hear
of
like
like a
urban legends. I mean, I guess it's not even really an urban legend because I'm sure it happens. Of you hear stories of people like watching it and then be like, "Ah, I recognize that person from high school," or so. Like that's. I feel like that would ruin it. I mean,
either. Well, it depends what you felt about that person because that may actually just quicken up the process. I don't know. That's a
yeah.
whole different
I guess it
conversation.
depends which person from high school it would be. It'd be weird if it was
Yeah.
your principal. Like, what?
Look, when I was in elementary school, I had a kind of. Well, I mean, I was also young, but I'm pretty sure she was a smoke show in my eyes. I'm not sure though
Your
because I was.
principal?
Yeah.
I think there's like a certain age where it's just like you haven't really figured it out yet. And you're just like, I like something about this person. And I don't
Yeah.
understand enough about myself to know what it is or like why. But
Like
yeah,
I
like
would
when you're
need
in
to see a
elementary
picture of
school, you're
her.
like figuring it out. You're like, I don't know why I like this so much, but I
Yeah.
like Judy
It,
Jetson was like a really early crush for me as a little kid. And it's like, I don't know why I like the Jetsons so much. It's not that good of a show, but you know,
fair.
little
See,
5 or 6 year old me was like, I do like it when Judy's on screen though. I don't know why. Jane
see,
also not bad.
I'm thinking about it now, and I kind of wish I could see a picture of that principal, like back then, but see it now to
Yeah.
wonder, like, oh, that,
I would be surprised if you're
hmm,
like, yeah, still got it. if
yeah,
I
hmm.
But again, I mean, we didn't go to elementary school together. I could
Yeah,
be
I can't
wrong.
even remember her name
She could
though.
be a legit
That's,
babe. I have no idea.
I mean, probably not now because it's like 30 years later, and chances of that being, it's probably not
There
happening.
was a gym teacher in my high school, super mean. Everyone like just she was the one everyone's like, "Ah, I hope I don't get this
Yeah,
one." I do not remember her name. But we found her like old yearbook picture because she went to the high school
yeah.
that she was teaching in. So we found like a really early yearbook with her, like her senior portrait, and we're like, she was an absolute babe. And she was
Mhm.
like, as an older woman, just and part of it was like personality. We're like, she's not nice. She just screams at everybody all the time.
Yeah.
But you would not guess how, like, if you looked at a picture of her when I was in high school versus the picture of her when she was in high school, you're like, what happened
That's
in
probably
the
why she's so angry. She's like,
subsequent 40 years?
right.
Yeah.
She's like, I fell off the ledge, and oh
Yeah. Oh,
God, what
after the
happened?
accident, it all turned around. Like, I don't know what it
Right.
was, but it was
Yeah.
just, it
After the
looked like two
fire,
completely different people. You would not believe.
oof, that's not good. Hmm. Age
Yeah,
is
I don't know.
tough.
I don't know what she's doing now. Probably still yelling at children. Although she was
Yeah.
pretty old when I was in high school, and that was a long time ago. So she's
Yeah,
probably
she may be
retired and or dead.
maybe yelling at a coffin here, unfortunately.
She's just yeah, get off my grave, you kids.
Right. Yeah. Just get off my lawn, you bastards.
She did love pickleball. I don't know.
I don't even know what that is. I
Are you out in
recently just,
Pittsburgh? Do I have
yeah.
that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super popular here in Jersey and like the eastern Pennsylvania uh, areas that I frequent. It is like tennis, but worse. But it's having a real moment. Like people are loving this, and it was like a
Yeah.
thing that she would push for in gym class. She'd be like, "All right, we're all playing pickleball. You guys are gonna love it." And I, I at least me and my friends were like, "This is dumb. You play with like a heavy wooden paddle that like
Yeah.
feels like you would use it to like spank children in the 30s, and you hit like what is essentially a big wiffle ball over. I think it was like a low net, and it's like this is. I mean, I didn't like any sports, so I don't need
Okay.
new weird ones introduced to me. But it is like
Hmm.
the past 6 months or so, I see people playing it like at parks and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
God, she was right. Miss Brooks, I think was her name. I'm like,
She
ah.
sounds mean.
Yeah, everybody called her Mama Brooks. It was Brooks. Everyone was like,
Mm.
Mama Brooks was right. Pickleball sweeping the nation, or at least sweeping the 50-mile radius from my house where I keep seeing people play it.
Yeah, so I listened to a fantasy football podcast, and the first time I heard of it was from them, and they're out in Arizona, and I'm just like, what is pickleball? Then I went
The
into
smoke alarm is going off. I gotta go. I gotta go look into that. I'll be
go
right
handle
back.
that.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's an actual fire.
Okay.
Oh, it stopped.
Oh well, that's unnerving.
Yeah.
But
My daughter is here with her best friend, and I'm like,
oh god.
what are they doing? But they're outside, so I don't know
Hmm.
what's going on. I hope it
Uh,
doesn't go off again.
that will be
Or I hope
interesting.
it does if there's a legit emergency. It beeps
Yeah.
randomly sometimes because my house is falling apart.
It's fine. Our front lawn caught on fire last night, so
Remarkable.
legit. And it was just like, oh. But it's like this little kind of like hill thing with a bunch of wood chips, and
Sure.
I mean it smelled great, but
I have when I was in college, somebody like flicked a cigarette on the mulch around a tree, and it
yeah.
was like cedar chips. You're like, this smells delicious. I should actually probably put it out before Ramapo
Oh yeah,
College
we
burns
didn't
to the
even
ground.
know. Like the wife was working, and
What smells delicious? Are
she
you
saw like
smoking a
all this
brisket?
smoke coming up. She's like, did you just go outside and smoke? I'm like, no. Um, but why? She's like, oh, there's just a bunch of smoke. I'm like, I'm just thinking it's like I let the ashtray catch on fire again because I'm a shitty person.
Sure.
And I was like, she's like, why aren't you coming down to see? I'm like, what? I don't, because it's a fucking ashtray. It's fine. Come downstairs. I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot. And there was like a guy across the road calling the fire department. I'm like, oh. Then my simple self was like, let me get a cup. And that, and then subsequently, they're also working on the sewer lines down the street. So the hose water pressure was barely there.
Right.
So I'm just like, oh, Jesus, come take me home. It's fine. But they came and they're like, oh, took care of it. Now, like half of it's like burnt, which kind of adds a little like, that kind of looks a little cool. And we also
It's stylized.
right, like we also wanted to get new mulch anyway, so it was a bit of a like,
Yeah, you can just put new mulch on top of it. You don't have to burn up the old mulch. That's an unnecessary step.
Right. Well, I mean, look, lessons learned.
Now you know for next time.
Yeah, or I just know to do it more evenly, so at least it's not like it's like a polka dot kind of deal here. There's like four little
Do you think you were
individual
targeted?
fires.
Was it arson? You think was somebody
I
trying
mean,
to get you?
I mean, if anything, that means the podcast is blowing up. Then
Somebody didn't like the last episode. They're trying to teach you a lesson.
hey, or they liked it and we're like, hey, I don't, I'm
I don't know how to
socially,
healthily
I'm
display my
socially inept.
affection.
I'm like, I have a Patreon, right? No, okay, you don't have to burn shit, but appreciate the passion.
I was teaching a comedy class years ago, and I didn't know, but a guy in the class like lived in my neighborhood, so he
Oh,
knew where I lived just from like seeing me around.
right.
And I mentioned one day online that I was writing an Alf spec script for reasons, and he gave me like an old Alf doll, but he just left it in my mailbox, no note. And I was like, I put a picture of it on social media when I found. I was like, hey, this is whoever this was. It's really nice, but also really creepy to just like leave stuff in my
Yeah.
mailbox because it like show. I'm like, well, you know where I live, but I don't know who you are. So
Right.
now I don't know who did this. It's a genuinely nice thought to be like, oh, Glenn likes Alf. I have this Alf doll. Let me go give it to Glenn, and then like immediately the guy's like, oh, sorry, it was me. He's like, I live down the street from you. I didn't know it would be weird. I was like, oh, it's like I said, it's
So
genuinely
it
really
was
nice.
less weird to leave a Prezi with no kind of instructions or name. It just was okay. People are weird.
Yeah. It's like, I
People are
mean,
weird.
again, like genuinely pretty nice. And like if you
Yeah.
said, hey, I have something for you, I'm gonna bring it by your house, and then I know where you live because I, am a block away
You
from you.
can't win there, can you?
No. Like I get you want it to be a surprise. I don't know. It's weird. I think it's like if it happened before I had kids, I don't think I would have thought anything about it being weird. But
Fair.
now it's like, don't just show up at my house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you get shot. And Jersey's kind of a shithole a little bit, isn't it? Like kind of like a
I'm in like the
danger
really
zone.
rural part. It is
Okay.
like a long running thing in my life where everyone thinks I live in Pennsylvania because I'm like right on
Really?
the border. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm in
Eh.
Warren County, which is like where all the farms are.
Oh. Okay. All right. So you really like Deliverance. Got it. Okay.
I like what?
Fair. Deliverance. Like the
Yeah, because it's rural. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of banjo picking out in the
Yeah.
woods of Warren County. I feel like it
Yeah.
genuinely would not take you that long to find someone who plays the banjo out by me. I live out where they shot Friday the 13th. Like the camp is like 10 minutes away.
They shot that out there?
Yeah.
Huh.
Camp
The more you
Novi
know.
Bosco, I believe it is called. Is it Jenny
Look,
Jump State Park?
my kid has a lute, so I legit like he
Spend a lot of
has
time at Ren fairs. Like, why do they have a lute?
because he's fucking weird and he likes
Nice.
guitar stuff, and I'm like, okay. And like we bought it, and it came from like it literally came from Turkey. Like it got shipped
Didn't
from
Sting
Turkey.
get into the lute later in his career?
I don't know. I find him insufferable.
I'm not a big fan. I just remember I think he's on an episode of Studio 60 as like the musical guest on the show within the show, and everyone was all excited, but he just wanted to play the lute. So I don't know if he really did that or if that was just a joke from a bad show. But
I don't know, but I've never
he's
even
my
heard the lute
immediate
being played.
association with the lute.
Yeah, I've
I don't
never
think
even
I've
heard
heard
him play it.
played outside of like a Ren Fair or Ren Fair adjacent event.
Yeah. Well, this was a hell of an intro.
Yeah. Let's talk about more weird instruments.
Yeah, it's fine. This is generally
I have an accordion around here somewhere.
Yeah, look, this is generally how this podcast goes. I don't know if you listened to anything or not. If you didn't, it's fine. I also hate you. Oh, did you?
I checked a couple episodes.
I apologize.
That's all right. You said to do I might be mixing it up with another one, but you had there was like football centric ones and then not football centric ones.
We're gonna be doing a football centric one once I come back from vacation, because I'm literally leaving on vacation today.
Nice.
And we're gonna come back and do that. I have one with my wife and one with my buddy, and I do all these. Like I am just bonkers with how much I work. It is what it is. Plus, I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's weird. It's like crack. I've never done crack, but I feel like if it was like productive, like this is like productive crack. Productive crack. Pro crack? Yeah, we'll go for it. See if that lands. Put that as a little tag for the podcast.
Like positive crack.
Yeah. Pro crack, pause crack, something. We'll figure it out.
You'll get there.
So, like I said, look, I'm Rich. That's Glen Tickle. I love it. Makes me so happy inside. I can imagine your childhood was an absolute monstrosity of like just
it was honestly kind of rough. Yeah, like I get a lot now, and it's like, oh, like of course you're a comedian, your last name's Tickle. I'm like, I have a big family. I'm the only one who does this. Like I had options. I could have done any other job. I mean, not well. I'm not good. I couldn't do like carpentry. That seems difficult.
Fair.
But not because of my name, just because I'm inept.
I'm not good at stuff with. I can break shit all the time, but just like putting it, like the wife is super good at putting it together. She has. I'm like,
patience. I could I guess hype you up while you're building a house or whatever, and like encourage you. But I don't know that I would be that useful.
Yeah, I couldn't even be that part of it.
But yeah, like it was a lot of getting picked on because of my name. The problem is like I have siblings, but they were all cooler than me. So like my older brother and one of my younger brothers, their friends would just all call them Tick because that was like their nickname on whatever sports team they were on at any given time.
Yeah, it's weird to yell out Tickle.
Yeah, like it's hard, like you're when you're doing like a serious sports thing to yell one of the goofiest words in the English language.
Yeah.
But I didn't play sports, so I never got down. Yeah, and a lot of my friends would just call me like my full name a lot.
Yeah.
That like my best friends in high school, they would just address me as Glen Tickle.
That's weird too.
Yeah, I mean, it caught like I don't think it was just me. I think we were all kind of doing it to each other, but that was a long time ago,
Oh,
so I don't
okay,
really
okay, okay.
remember.
Okay, well, I mean that makes sense then.
Yeah, and or like they would just call me Tickle. I'm like, it's fine. Like I'm used to it. It's been my name
Yeah,
the whole time. But
it's more like the elementary kids there because they're just atrocities, and
yeah, I
they will.
started substitute teaching out of
Oh God.
college, and I would go back and like I would sub for like a third grade class, and I'm like, well, now I got to hear all the same jokes from when I was in third grade because it's like
Yeah.
you could measure a child's development over what jokes they make about my name or like what words they
Yeah.
try to rhyme it with at different stages. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind
There's
of
probably a lot of
exhausting.
pickle tickle there. Yeah.
So much. Yeah, Pickle's like the
Yeah.
first one.
I didn't even think of that either. That's the funny thing. I didn't even think of the whole. Oh, that's.
Yeah.
I
It was
will say
always
I.
like mildly annoying, and then when I started doing comedy, everyone like thought it was a stage name, and I'm like, but
I thought that myself. Not
a
gonna
lot
lie
of
to you.
people do. I'm like, but it would be a bad one. Like if I
Mm,
did this on purpose, it's a fine real name, but it's such a dumb stage name. I'm like, if someone changes their last name to Tickle to pursue comedy, don't trust them with comedy. Like that's a bad decision out of the gate.
or your
Like I'm
kids.
it's what?
Or your kids. Don't trust them with your kids either.
Yeah,
Probably not.
like I worked as a birthday clown a couple of times when I was in college,
Oh my
and
God.
everyone's like, "What's your clown name?" Just the one. Like my name's already a clown name. I do not
Mm,
need to change it. It's like this one will do. Just tell them
mm.
that my name is Mr. Tickle.
Oh, good God.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would not hire you. I'm sorry.
it's wild because I've done so much work with kids. Is like I know it's fine, but
Yeah.
like it seems like it shouldn't be. Like you
Right.
shouldn't. Don't hire Mr. Tickle to come do science demonstrations at your elementary school. But
Mm,
they would do it. I'm like, yeah, no. Like again, I know it's fine, but
right.
you're just make better choices. Like I need the work, I'll come do it. But like I don't know. It
So
feels like it should credit me a bit, but I don't know.
yeah, I mean, but it's almost kind of like one of those deals where, all right, if this dude was really like diddling kiddos, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't name himself Mr.
Yeah.
Tickle. Like that's just kind of like
He's so brazen. He's leading with it.
right. It's just kind of one of those, oh, you're a fireman. What's your name? Pyro. No, okay,
Yeah. Johnny Arson. Oh, all
right.
right. I mean,
Oh, there you go.
that actually sounds pretty cool.
It actually does. Hmm. Well, so what made you get into the whole comedy deal? Like what?
I've always liked it. But when you're a little kid and you see like Steve Martin on the Muppet Show, it's like, oh, I like watching this. It's fun, but I don't think it registers as a job opportunity. You're not like, oh yeah, I'll go do that professionally. You're like, all right, especially, when you're really little, you're like, all right, the jobs are firefighter or astronaut. I got to pick one of those. And then even in high school, I decided I wanted to go to college for film and like write and direct movies. And that a lot of people in the film industry say the same thing. They're like, oh, I didn't realize like it was like a job you could do. But freshman year of high school, I saw the movie Clerks, and
Nice.
I'd always
You
loved
know,
movies. But then when I
really
saw
quick,
Clerks, it's like, oh, you can just get a bunch of your friends and a convenience store and make a movie. Because before that, I would just watch like Star Wars and Jurassic Park, which I love, but it's not like you don't watch Jurassic Park and you're like, I can make Jurassic Park. It's like I don't have access to giant dinosaurs. So, but there's a convenience store and I have friends, so I can do that one.
dude. It's super weird that you're saying that because, like, as you're talking, I'm just like, this dude feels like Kevin Smith to
I mean, I am a huge Kevin Smith fan and
me.
have been
That's so
since I
weird. That's
saw
so
Clerks
silly.
freshman year. I've actually got to meet him once. I wrote about it for a site I
Yeah.
used to write for, but I was supposed to interview him when the Man of Steel trailer came out, and you saw Henry Cavill had a beard at one point, and then when you see him as Superman, he doesn't have the beard. So I think it was Gillette. They hired it was Kevin Smith, Bill Nye, the Mythbusters, and Mayim Bialik to like explain how Superman would shave, and then people could vote on what explanation they thought was the best. So I had to do
Okay.
interviews with all those people about how Superman would shave, uh, and all of them, like, everybody else came up with like a solution, but Kevin is such a comics fan. He's like, he uses the laser vision in a mirror. It's in the comics. We've seen him do it a couple of times. Like that's the answer. And it's like it's not really up for debate. That's how he does it. Uh, but I was the last interview for it he was supposed to do, and then it was running late because dude can talk. Like, you ask him one question and he will, give you an hour and a half answer. Uh, but he felt like I was supposed to do 15 minutes, I think, and then it kept getting pushed back. And they're like, he's got to go to like do a TV thing. We can only give you like 5 minutes. And he's like such a nice guy. He's like, well, he's been waiting like this whole time. I'm not going to cut his time. He's like, I have to drive downtown to go to this thing. Do you want to come in the car and we can do the interview there?
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
cool.
yeah, hero of mine. I would love to do that. But I left my laptop bag
Mhm.
in the room that we were doing the first interview because I was like surprised at what was happening, I guess.
Right.
And we're driving down. I'm like, hey, my computer's back in your hotel. And he's like, well, I'm not going to be back there for a couple hours, but if you want to hang out, you can just stay with me. And then when we go back, you can grab it. I was like, yeah, actually, I really do. I do want to do that. And at a certain point, it was like I was out of questions about Superman's beard. Didn't know what else he felt like talking about, but it was like hours of like jumping from place to place with
Yeah.
Kevin Smith. And then at a certain point, he's like, "Hey man, you can keep asking me stuff because I'm like I didn't want to be rude or whatever. I'm like, I know, but also like my daughter was a couple months old. I'm like, I have not slept in like 6 months, man. I'm super tired. And then he and I just talked about dad stuff for the rest of the
Yeah.
time. And I'm like, he's still a huge fan.
He
I'm
always
glad he
struck me as a
didn't
real
die
round,
of a
like
massive
down
heart
to earth.
attack.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad he survived.
Yeah, he always struck me as a super like down to earth person from every like interaction you've seen with him. He's just kind of like, yeah, this isn't really a facade. It's kind of just who I am.
Yeah. There's like on every once in a while people will be like, I don't understand why people like Kevin Smith so much. His stuff is dumb. I'm like, I don't he's really nice. Like, I feel like you do kind of age out of, you know, movies like Mallrats at a certain
Right.
point, but I grew up on it, so I still love it. There's probably stuff that doesn't hold up. I haven't watched Mallrats in a while, but I'm like, I don't he just seems like a nice dude who got the chance to do exactly what he wants to be doing. He, tries to help bring his friends along the way. I got nothing but nice things to say about Kevin Smith. I mentioned him once in the new special because I do a big list of people from New Jersey, so I was
Yeah.
sure to include him on the list.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you. I mean, I think the stand up comedy thing is that's such a super cool thing to be able to pursue, and just like there's something beautiful about, hey, what's your job? I get to make people laugh, and I get to laugh while I'm making people laugh.
Yeah,
It's pretty rad.
it is. It's really fun. I get to do this as like currently like my only job is doing comedy,
Oh, really?
and
Oh
a big
man.
part of it is because of the pandemic and because of being a dad.
Yeah.
So if I had just a regular 9 to 5 job, we would have to find so much additional childcare that like I would end up making less money than if I just do comedy and am usually the one home with the kids during the day.
Yeah.
Uh, so I had like a couple side jobs and stuff for when I was not touring, that I would kind of schedule around, but then those went away because of the pandemic. And then weirdly, like doing stuff like virtual shows really took off for me during the pandemic. I do a lot of like corporate Zoom comedy, which is not the best form of comedy, but it pays. And like I've been doing enough of it that now, as things are opening up again, like now I'm just doing like regular in person again, like mostly corporate stuff. But I'm doing a lot more comedy now than I was before everything shut down.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like, oh, like I think now I can genuinely like just stick to doing this at least for now. I know a lot of comics like have day jobs like way later into like a pretty successful career than people probably realize. Um, I'm trying to remember. I think it's Sarah Benincasa, comedian and actor, who wrote a book called "Artists Have Day Jobs" or "Real Artists Have Day Jobs," something like that, years ago, like well before the pandemic. But it was like, yeah, like people who make art and things that you enjoy probably can't survive off just that art. So they have to like be doing something else. So sometimes they try to find something related. Like I know a lot of comics who work in advertising or whatever, because you know everybody wants commercials to be funny now. So they're like, oh, let's hire some comics to write some commercials. And it's
That
like,
makes sense.
yeah. And sometimes they pair really well, and people still do both pretty successfully. I've also seen people who get into a day job that they try to find that is like kind of creative and fulfilling, and they're like, I'm actually just going to do this one. Like, I'm just going to do advertising because I feel like it's scratching a creative itch, and it also pays better than, you know, featuring at a comedy club somewhere, which is true. They don't pay very well.
Yeah, I've never heard this being like an insanely lucrative thing. I've always kind of heard it's been just like a crazy grind, and
Yeah,
it's
it
like an
is.
absolute passion type of
It
project too.
depends on like the reason I do so much corporate work is because it pays better. Like the shows, I've had really fun corporate shows. I'm not trying to make it sound like everyone is a nightmare, but like they're usually not set up for like success. Comedian Todd Glass does a lot of like you can find videos of him like ranting about how a comedy club and comedy show should be set up. And if you go into pretty much any corporate comedy show, it is the exact opposite of all of his recommendations. You're doing like comedy at 1 in the afternoon in a huge, brightly lit corporate Holiday Inn like conference center room for like 50 people in a room that seats probably 600, and you're like, yeah,
Oh,
none of this is set up for this to go well. Uh, so I think especially during the pandemic where you're doing Zoom shows, which are hard to do, like there's a weird internet delay. Like you can't always count on people wanting to be unmuted. Like sometimes you're doing it to literal
oh God,
silence.
yeah.
I've done enough of them now where it's like, yeah, if I'm doing a show and something isn't set up well, I'm not like hung up on, oh, the room lights are too bright, so the focus isn't on me. I'm like, I don't care. I'll do whatever weird bad show. Because if something's not set up right, a lot of times I like to get there early and I will like try to help and like
That's
recommend
cool,
what
yo.
we should do. And if they don't listen to me and then it goes bad, it's like, well, it's not my fault. Like I'm not the one who messed up. Like you, I did a horrible gig in Madison, Wisconsin, at a country club, and I got there early, and they're like, "Here's how it's gonna go. All the golfers are gonna be walking in. They're gonna line up at a buffet. You're gonna tell them jokes while they're waiting in line to get food after drinking in the sun for 4 hours." I'm like, actually, you know, if you want this to be fun for anyone, let's wait until they sit down. I'll tell them jokes while they're eating dinner. And they're like, no, this is how we're going to do it. I was like, it's not like that. They're not going to be paying attention. Like a lot of comedy is like, for me at least, is, you know, I'm setting things up to call back later. I have like kind of longish stories. I'm not really like a setup punchline like quick joke guy. It is
Good.
like here's 5 minutes about something my kid did, and that's not what people want while they're waiting in line to get food. Uh, and the woman I was dealing with was like, absolutely not. This is how I've decided to do it, so this is how it will be done. And I was supposed to do an hour. After like 15 minutes, she sent somebody else up to just be like, hey, you know what? We're just gonna read the golf scores. Like this isn't going good. I'm like, I know. I know it's not going good. And I feel like even, you know, 3 years ago, whatever, before the pandemic, a show like that, I would have been like just flop sweating and like nervous.
Right.
Oh God, this isn't going good. I'm bad at but that I'm like, this is your fault, not mine. Like I will I'm glad they cut it early because it is like brutal to just keep doing a show that's not going well. But
Right.
I would have bombed gleefully for an hour, because you know, when you sign a contract for that, you're like, all right, the performer will do a 60-minute show or whatever. So I'm like, as long as I talk for 60 minutes, you got to pay me. Like that's,
Right.
it doesn't say in the contract it has to be good. It just says it has to be a certain amount of time. And it shows like that, I feel like really used to get to me where something was set up wrong or not going well. But now it's like, I'm not the one who set this up. I specifically told you not to do it this way. And they're like, no, we're going to do it. And it's going to be great. It isn't. Also, their sound was bad. And, you know, it's all, country club people
I
who
was gonna say, like, you kind of were set up for failure because one, it was in Wisconsin, and two, then you had country club people. Like, I don't golfers don't strike me as funny people.
I do a lot of like shows at country clubs,
Really?
but it's not like this was like, it's bright. We're in like a sun porch with huge windows all over the place. And it is the middle of the day. They've been golfing all day, just like drinking in the sun. It was like bring your buddy to the club day. So it's like half of
Oh,
them are members, half of them are like trying to rope people in to join or whatever. I'm like, this isn't my my crowd, I don't think. Uh
mm-hmm.
they don't want to hear a lot of jokes about Jurassic Park. They want to just probably talk about golf a lot, would be my guess. I'm like,
Right.
I don't have like a solid 20 on golf. But a lot of the shows that I do at country clubs are just like, it's not like a members event. It's like, yeah, just that's where the show is. Just
That's
come
just where it's
have
at.
dinner,
Okay.
watch. And those are usually fine. Like, because they have usually like a decent sound system. They do a lot of events. So they're like, the basics of we're going to have a stage and a microphone that works are usually like given. And if not, like PA systems are pretty affordable now, and you can get a small one that travels well. So I have like a backup one that I will bring to gigs if
Oh,
if
okay.
they need me to, or if I'm like, they're not going to have a good sound system at this winery in a field or whatever.
So, what is kind of your comedy? Like, if you had to kind of put it into a box, like, you know,
It is. I do a lot of stories. I like that's probably my main. Like, if you try to break it down in a category, I would say that's probably the biggest one. Um, the special that I'm putting out is like I talk a lot about my kids, which has been a huge part of my comedy for as long as they've been alive. So over a decade now. And it worked out because before that, it was just like that was when I was pretty new, and I would just sit and try to think like, all right, what will people think is funny? Like what is a joke an audience would want to hear? And it was the first couple of years, like it was going fine. Like when you're starting out at anything, you're not going to be great at it out of the gate. I was like pretty okay. I was getting booked on shows and like developing material and stuff. But then after my daughter was born, uh, I canceled like all the shows that I had, except for one. I was opening for Mike Kaplan at a local venue that I've performed at a lot. And I'm a big Mike Kaplan fan. I'd worked with him before. So I'm like, all right, this was like a week after my kid was born. And I'm like, I really want to do this show. Like, I'm not going to be out on the road or whatever. This was like local. So it's like, I'll be home that night. I'm not going to be gone for a couple days. I'm not going to stick my wife with a newborn baby while I like hit the road for a month or whatever. But I'm like, I really want to do this one. And I went, and then I'm like, I haven't thought about like what jokes I was going to do or anything, because it's, you have kids, like it's insane. It's the first week, especially. You're like, I all I'm thinking about is like how to keep this new person alive. And then I
oh,
got to
I
the
was trying to
show.
figure out how to put him back in. I was like, go back in there.
How do I undo this terrible
Right.
mistake I've made? And I'm like, oh right, I don't have like jokes. Like I had ones that I'd written, but it's like that was the first show where like I'm just gonna talk about like what's going on in the moment. Like so, I just talked about how tired I was because I literally not slept in like a week. I'm like, I know I have jokes that I've written, but I haven't gotten enough sleep to remember any of them. And I like kind of rambled for the 10-ish minute set that I was doing, but it was like going better than I thought it would have. And after that show, I was like, people like it when I talk about this kid. And that's great because, like, as a new dad, all I wanted to talk about was my kid. So the second like that happened, it's like, oh, all right, I'll lean into that. Like, uh, I did a show at a college conference years ago, and a student stopped me in the hallway of the conference center like the day after I performed, and she's like, "I know you. You're that dad comic." And I'm like, "Yep, that's me. Like, I'll take that one." Like, I get branded. I do a lot of clean shows because I do a lot of corporate stuff.
I
I
was
don't
gonna
like
ask
billing
you.
myself as like a clean comic because I feel like there's a lot of crossover with that and like religious comedy, which I certainly don't do. And it's like I'm a guy who is clean a lot of the time because like I'm doing stories and stuff about my kids most of the time. So it feels when I started out, it felt weird to be like, here's a dirty joke, and now here's a story about my beautiful infant daughter. Like it
Right.
didn't feel like it went together, and I liked doing jokes about my kids more. So I'm like, well, I'll just do that. And then when you start, like, I started booking colleges and stuff, and they tell you to work clean a lot of the time. And I'm lazy. I'm like, well, I don't want to write two sets. I don't want there to be like the clean set and the dirty set. I just want to write material that I can do wherever. And
Right.
if I'm doing like a bar show or whatever, I'm still an adult man. Like I'll swear conversationally, like I probably have done on here. I don't really remember if I've said any bad words, but I don't
Maybe,
care.
maybe
Like
not. That's fine.
I have friends who do clean comedy because like they have strong beliefs that like you shouldn't swear into a microphone in public, either like religious beliefs or just that's how they were brought up. They're like, it's rude to
Yeah.
swear in front of mixed company. I was like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, it's just to make more money for like,
It's one of those things. If you're going to a comedy show and you're like, I'm offended, it's like, why did you go to a comedy show? Like, what did you think was
yeah.
going to happen?
Part of it is like the point I'm at in my career. Most of the time, people aren't coming to see me specifically. They're just going to see the idea of comedy.
Okay.
And so in that case, it's like if I'm doing a show in Iowa, for example, I look at it as like I am being invited to this place by this group of people. So if I wasn't doing a comedy show, if they're just like, "Hey, come over for dinner and we'll, pay you a bunch of money." And I'm like, "Great." I'm not going to walk in and be like, "Hey, who'd you idiots vote for? Let me tell you why you're wrong and you're dumb." Like
Right.
that's rude. I don't like bring up politics and stuff in shows like that. I do like on social media a lot, and then people who have found me through like these clean shows that I get booked on, they're like, "I didn't realize you were like an insane leftist." I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like it didn't feel right to bring it up then, but like you came to my Instagram page, so I'm going to complain about stuff. Like that's if you don't like my social media posts, I don't know, don't follow me. But I'm also not going to show up at your event and be like, "Hey, dummy, I disagree with you. And I think you're
Right.
stupid and wrong." Like that doesn't seem like a good idea.
No, that's never really like that little shock jock comic deal. Never really kind of
Yeah.
resonated with
I
me. It's
think if
just
people
like,
were coming to see me specifically more, then I would have a different opinion. But it's like I don't know. I do genuinely look at it as like being invited to a place. So I'm like I'm gonna be well behaved. It is my job to like try to assure that everybody is having a nice time. So I don't want to bring up stuff that I think is gonna upset that audience. If I'm doing like a club or something, I don't care that much about it. But
yeah, I mean, it's yeah. So you've been doing this for how long?
almost 14 years since
Yeah.
October 2009.
Wow. So what would you say would be the worst kind of on stage experience you've had?
Man, that Madison Golf Club one is up there for
Yeah.
sure. Uh, I've been putting a list of terrible shows together for a project, and I've been looking back trying to think of like what are the really bad ones that I've had to do. Uh, One that like the show ended up being really fun, but I was dreading it because it was a benefit for firefighters. And before they brought me up, they showed like a slideshow of all the calls that they went on that year. So it's just like photos of car accidents and houses on fire. And it was set to All Star by Smash Mouth. And then they're like, and now comedy. And they like introduced me. And I was like, I don't know how to follow a horror slideshow set to one of the worst songs. And like I said, the actual show ended up being fine, but I'm like, I can't. This is probably the
What do
weirdest
you do with
I've
that?
ever had to do. And I did another one. Like I did another show for firefighters like the year before. And so like because of this terrible show, the Smash Mouth show, I was like, oh, all right, I don't think firefighters like me. I don't know if that's it. But this other one I did, they're like, hey, it's the 100th anniversary of our like fire company being founded, so we're gonna have a big event. Can you come perform? And I was like, happy to. Like my dad was a firefighter, my brother was a
Oh,
firefighter. I'm like, I'm happy to like support the cause. And I get there, and I thought I just got there like early. So there's like the big fire hall where they do events and stuff. And there's a bunch of tables set up, but there's just the firefighters. So it's like, all right, we're getting right. We're setting up before. I thought it was like a big community event. It was not. It was
mm-mm.
just for like the 12 guys in the fire company. And we're sitting in a huge room. They're not even all sitting at the same table. They're like broken up into like little groups around like 6 different tables. And then they're like, all right, start. And I was like, "Oh, do you have a microphone or anything?" They're like, "No." I'm like,
You
"Oh,
don't need any. It's fine. Just talk a little louder.
oh, okay. I mean, we're in a really big room and you guys aren't sitting together, but I'm supposed to do a half hour." And again, like I will do it. However long I agree to do. It doesn't matter how it's going. I will talk for
Yeah.
that amount of time. So I'm just standing there. It is clear immediately that they do not like me. And at one point, some dude pulls his phone out and starts watching clips of comedians he assumingly liked better than me. And
Oh.
I'm like, but it was so quiet, you could hear the clips. Like you could hear Dane Cook
Mm.
coming from this guy's phone. And I was like, this is horrible. It just like half hour of silence, just me yelling at a bunch of firefighters, trying to get through the material. And again, like it takes a lot for me to turn on an audience because
Right.
that was one where it's like, I mean, I thought this was something different when I agreed to do it. I don't know whose fault this is. I don't necessarily think it's mine, but it's, maybe the guy who set it up, but it's not these people's fault. Uh, so we get through it. We get through the half hour. The guy who booked me is like reluctantly walking me down to his office to still pay me. And when we walk downstairs, they have like a bar room there's like a pool table and couches and a big screen TV. And then that's where his office was. And I was like, hey man, just so you know, for next time, but please don't ever do this again. This is where the show should have been. There's not a lot of you. If you guys were all sitting on couches, this would have gone a lot better. I don't know about great, but it would have been better. And he's like, well, we couldn't do it down here because this is where the stripper's going to be. And I was like, all right, man, I'm just going to take my money and go. And I'm like, I don't know why that precludes it. It's not like she was there setting up a pole or
Right.
something before the show. I'm like, it could have, both could have happened. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Like, oh, okay.
But yeah, that was a real sweaty one where it's like that because that was pretty early on too. That was years ago, so it was like
Yeah.
before I had any semblance of what a show needs to be like beaten out of me by the pandemic. Where now it's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll stand on the back of a pickup truck and tell jokes in a field. That sounds great. And it's before 2020, everyone's like, no, like the comedy, you got to have low ceilings and like red curtains. It's got to be dark. And this, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'll do it anywhere. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does. Like, there's stuff you can do that will make the show better, but it's not going to
Right.
stop me from agreeing to do the show.
Right. I mean, money talks, bullshit walks. It's kind of
Yeah.
how that
There's
goes.
a part in Steve Martin's book, Born Standing Up, where he talks about how one time he did a show at a drive-in and people would honk. instead of laugh because they were so far away. And he's like, he talks about it like a real nightmare scenario. But during the pandemic, like those were pretty common. Like a lot of those shows were happening. Uh, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I would do that now. Again, like before the pandemic, I don't know that I would, but I've done weirder shows. I've done shows like outside of barns at like state fairs. We're like, oh, we don't have a sound system, and you're gonna be on right before the dog show. It's like, oh, great. This sounds. I'm just gonna be yelling at people waiting for a dog show to start. Perfect. That's when
So,
I signed
I
up
mean, is
for
that
it.
normal? Like, is that, when we talk about the grind of it, is kind of your experience? Is that normal? Is that different? I mean, not different, but you know what I mean. Is that kind of
Uh,
like a
I would say it's like 50-50, and
yeah?
w- not taking the pandemic into consideration. I would say about half the shows that you do are like clubs or places that do events that like know how to put a show on, and like the audience is there to watch the show. And then it's about half just people trying to who don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to do it in a different way, where it's like you're doing a bar show, but there's not like a back room at the bar. It's not like a separate area. You're just doing the show in the middle of a bar. And a lot of the people aren't there to watch show. They're there to drink because they want to go to a bar. Like they're actively mad that a show is happening around them.
Mm,
Or it's like, yeah, like you're doing it outside at a fair, or you're doing it in a, retirement home, like lunch event. And it's like, it's I know some comics who will they just want to do the good shows. They're like, I only work in clubs. I only work if like the the settings are correct. And I'm like, yeah, but like the messed up shows are usually the ones that pay better. Like
right.
I will happily tell jokes to college students while they ignore me and eat lunch in a cafeteria because they pay pretty good. So like I don't care if the show is good. I want it to be, but it's not like I'm not going to beat myself up anymore over like, man, I should have crushed in that, accounting office break room. Like I should have, and it's like the ceiling on how good some of these can be, like you have to understand, is pretty low.
Right.
So if you set your expectations lower, you're like, as long as we get through this, if like a couple people seem into it, if no one's mad at me at the end of a show, great show.
Oh, that's a great attitude to have. I mean, because you are right. Like, I feel like comedy is one of the hardest things to do because you can sit there and think, Jesus Christ, this is hilarious, and you say it out there, and they're like, wait, what now? Or
Yeah.
it could be like the most inconspicuous thing, and people find it stupidly entertaining. Like, I have a story, and this is literally something that happened, and it's not even a comedy thing. I ate a shower in the brownie. I ate a brownie in the shower before.
What?
And the story that led up to it was I went to the store and I was too lazy to take the extra 2 steps to go into the room instead of the bathroom because I was like, it's hot. I want to take a shower. And then I brought the bag in there for whatever reason. And because I just went to the store and grabbed a few things, set it down. I'm like, I'm going to go get a shower. It's hot. Yada, yada, whatever, you know, decision. And was getting ready to get in the shower and looked over and it was like a cling, like the light just clicks off of it. It's like, hey baby, how are you doing? And then it just became I ate a brownie in the shower. And they're like, well, how'd you do that? Not get it wet? And I was like, well, I spent the first 5 minutes that I usually do crying, eating the brownie,
Yeah.
and it
I imagine you didn't do it with like your face under the water. Like you're
right.
off
And
to
like
the
that was a
side.
question I had. I'm like,
You could do it. I don't know again why you would,
I
but
don't advise it. It wasn't like a conscious decision or a planned out kind of endeavor. Now, if
yeah.
it came out to be a situation again, I'll definitely be your Huckleberry again. That's fine. I'm not gonna didn't ruin the brownie. It just provided a story, and it just ended up being a funny little thing that I actually told the first guy I interviewed, and he like riffed on it for like 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't know why this is so funny and interesting to you, but should leave the house some. But all right, and I think that's just that's kind of the crazy thing about comedy because yeah, it is like you talk about a humbling career, right? You sit there and you're just pouring your heart out. You're just doing X, Y, Z, and you're inside. You're just giggling like a little schoolgirl, and they're looking at you like, "Boy, we're gonna lynch you," and it's just not
Yeah,
comfortable.
there's been a couple times where I will like have a bit or something that I'm really excited to talk about on stage, and then you try it, and then you're like, "Oh, you guys don't like this or care about anything I'm saying."
Right.
There's a bit on the new special that the bit grew out of that, and it became better because like the first couple audiences genuinely had no idea what I was talking about.
Nice.
I was telling a story about zebras that got out of a zoo in Maryland when I
Okay.
was down on a trip there. And then I compared it to the time Australia almost lost a war to emus in the 30s. And
Okay.
that was the line where it's like, "Oh, do you guys not know that that happened? Do you not?" And it's just like it's if you look it up, it's the Great Emu War of 1932. It's a
Right.
real thing that happened. And like I don't know. I have known about this for a really long time, and I just assumed it was like a thing that everyone had heard of. But I did it for like probably 10 shows, and it got the same total lack of reaction every time. And then like after that, like first couple times, it's like, do you guys not? Does this not work because you don't know what I'm talking about? And everyone's like, yeah, we have no idea. And it's like, all right,
Oh.
I was gonna tell you jokes more, but we're gonna do a legit history lesson because this story is fascinating. And I would just like explain it. So it became just like it started out as just like a throwaway line comparing one thing in the story that people are already listening to this other thing that happened because I thought they would be like, "Oh yes, those two things are pretty similar." But then they're like, "We don't know what that other one is." It's like, "Well, you should. It's hilarious." And then I get to talk about, obscure Australian history for 5 minutes. And then that became a challenge of like, "All right, well, how do I make this part interesting?" Because if you're like, "Hey, I'm going to interrupt this comedy show to teach you something," usually people kind of check out at that point. So it's
Right.
like, I want to talk about this, but I need it to be interesting the whole time. And I talked to that. I just finished teaching a stand up class a couple weeks ago. And that's one of the things that like I really try to get people who are starting out in comedy to focus on is like, if you are talking about something on stage, it's because you think that it is interesting. Not everyone necessarily thinks it's interesting. And part of your job as the performer is like you can look at it two ways. You can try to figure out what other people think is interesting and talk about that, or you can figure out how to make what you are interested in interesting to other people. And I do the second one way more
I
than the
was gonna
first
say
one.
that makes the most sense.
And
I
I
get you
mean,
have to cater to your audience, but at a
yeah,
certain point, you're doing the entertainment. You need to be entertained by said entertainment to entertain said people.
yeah. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but I don't want to do the one. I don't want to do the one where I have to learn what other people are interested in. Like that is just that
Yeah,
not just in comedy. That's like a personality trait. It's like I don't.
dude, I agree. Fuck that first
I'm not
part.
gonna learn how. Like I met my wife when we were 12. I've been married 17 years. I'm like I'm not gonna learn how Tinder works so that I can make jokes about Tinder to like
Right,
pander to people. Like I've never used a dating app because I've been married before they existed.
right.
So it's not like I'm not gonna like download it just to do research. I'm like I don't care. Like I'm not interested in dating apps. And
I appreciate
or
that, man. That's cool. I like that you're true to yourself and you're just not.
yeah,
There
I
isn't
thank
like
you.
a. There's no. I'm not like. I'm not a panda bear over here. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
this kind
and
of.
there's
Nobody
there's
likes that.
comics who do, the other like the opposite, and I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just like, I don't know, that seems hard for me to do. I
I feel
don't
like
wanna
it
do
gets this. You see through it. I feel like that's so easily like, because you I don't know. I'm a pretty.
You cut the sound cut out. I don't know if that's. I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if that's on your end or my end. Hang on. Is that still all right? It looks like I can't hear you anymore. I heard something click and then you cut out. No. I just went to settings in StreamYard and tested my audio. It sounded like something clicked, so like I don't know if something got unplugged, but let me double check. OBS is working. It should still be because I can see myself, and that would have been the first thing to go. Pop out and back in. Yeah, I'll be right back. All right, I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
I heard like a pop, so I thought like I knocked something out, but it said my mic was still registering on my end, so I don't know.
Weird. Well, I was just saying, I appreciate the fact that you're true to yourself, and you just, I don't know. It shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. It should be a fun, organic thing to do.
It was humming, and then I think I lost you again. Oh, now I hear you.
Yeah, I realized what happened. My little thing died, so we're gonna do this on the road here.
Perfect. Yeah, it can't. I know over the years I've heard like different comics say they're like, "Oh, you should be able to kill in any room," and I'm like, I don't want to. Like there are times where I'll do a show and then it doesn't go as well as I want it to, and I will. I'm friends with a comedian named Jay Black, and he is like my benchmark for who I assume can kill in any room because like he's a lot more high energy than I am. He like quickly relates the audience to hit like not to say he like panders or whatever. It's just we approach comedy differently. And
Okay.
I will do a show sometimes, and if it doesn't go well for me, and I'm like, I bet Jay would have killed in that room. That's when I feel bad. It's like I could have done something different to make that show go better. But then when it's like that Madison golf show, it's like it wouldn't have mattered. Like Chris Rock could have walked in that room and bombed. It wouldn't have made any difference. Like I was not the problem.
You weren't the problem.
And
It's the fact that people are trying to run a show that never ran a show or trying to run a show.
yeah, I mean, because you have somebody like telling jokes in the middle of a room while people are lining up for, you know, crummy buffet food. Like it's not the best time to do comedy. And then I think Paul F. Tompkins years ago also basically said the same thing. He's like, I don't want to crush in any room. I want to find an audience of people who like what I am doing. And I would love to do that. And you know, I'm starting to now. Like I've noticed there's a show that I do every year in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, during Music Fest, and every year more people like either are coming to see me there specifically or they are coming to see the show and like want to talk to me after. And it's like a couple years ago it was like maybe one or two people, and like this year it was like a group, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
I mean, this is honestly, it's been the goal the whole time. Like I want this to happen, but now that it is, it's like, oh, I don't know, feels weird to have fans. Like it's not a thing that I'm used to. And I'm not saying that like I have a, you know, hordes of people banging down my door. But when I go to a town that I've never been to before and there's people there to see me who are like familiar with my work, it's like weird. Like I did a show in Ashland, Wisconsin, which was much better than the Madison show. And like a
I
bunch
mean,
of people came out. Like we sold out the room. And I was like, oh, is this just like a show you guys do all the time? And like it's the thing to do in town tonight? They're like, no, we're here to see you. And it's like, I've never been to Ashland, Wisconsin. Why? Why do you guys know who I am? And it's like the internet, you know. I had a dry bar special that came out in 2021 that's been doing pretty well. So it's like, well, that's, you know, I understand how they found me, but it's still it takes some getting used to when people are like, oh yeah, like we're fans of this show. Like I'm sure in podcasting you have the same thing of like,
I was gonna say it freaked me out the first time I got like a random comment from someone I never met on YouTube. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Are you a
yeah,
scam? What are you doing?
I
And they're
had
like, keep going. I'm like, what?
there was a kid who came to that music fest show. Like and he's going into high school this year. So he just finished, I think, 7th grade last year. And he like brought a picture of me that he printed off from my website from home and asked me to sign it. And I was like,
What?
why? Why do you have this? And he was like, he thought I was mad at him for like stealing the pit. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, it's fine. It's just you're the first person to ever do this. And he's like, no one's
Right.
asked you for an autograph before. I was like, no, of course they have. But no one's printed my photo out on their home printer and brought it in to ask me. I'm like, I'm tickled that you're doing this, kid. Like it's adorable. I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to sign. I ran to my CD to my car to grab him a CD because I had like one left. And then later that day, he sent me a video on Instagram of him like trying to put the CD in his phone, and he's like, "Thank you, but I don't know what this is." And I was like, "It's a good bit, kid. Like that's a, it's a legit pretty good joke." And like he's come to a couple other shows, and it's like
Really?
yeah, I'm like, I'm happy
That's
to see him
cool.
every time, and it's like I wish him all the best. I did another show in the area when I recorded the special. It's like, oh, I should let that kid know because I know he lives in that area. I
Right.
should send him a message, and then I second guessed myself. I was like, I should not DM a minor on Instagram for any reason, like at all. I'm like, I'll post about it. I know he follows the account. He'll see it. And then he came to a show a couple weeks ago, and his mom comes with him because he's, you know, too young to drive himself. And I told her, I was like, yeah, I wanted to invite him to the album recording, but like it felt weird. And she's like, yeah, I understand why that would feel weird. And I'm like, yep, I just want you to know that like I did have I did have that thought. And
I
again,
was thinking of them, but
it's like you said with, you know, doing substitute teaching as Mr. Tickle. It's like, I know in my heart, like I would not send this kid anything untoward online, but it's probably best to just not do it. You know, like if he sees the post about the show and wants to come, great. If, you know, I don't sign up for the mailing list or whatever, kid. I don't, I'm not going to personally invite you places because it feels weird,
right.
but it's like, the one show he came to, him and his mom were there to see me specifically, and then another guy, he kind of lives in my area, so he's been to a few shows. I think he's in his 70s, and they were like the two people who were like, we are here because we are fans of Glen Tickle. And it's like, I love that you guys are here. I do need like I got to narrow that age gap of fans. Like
Right.
the people here to see me are children and grandpas. I got to get a little like more my own age. But I'm happy that they're there. Like it is, I like that they both can watch my stuff and like find it interesting. And I don't know about relatable because like I do a
The
lot of
age
jokes about
gap.
having kids. So like the 13-year-old is going to be like, yes, I understand this as also a father of
Well,
two.
nowadays you
A-
mean
And it's just like, yeah, like I don't know, I want everybody to have a nice time. And I've done shows where I've had people come up to me after like a bar show in New York or something. They're like, oh, I like that you worked clean. I'm like, I didn't actually. Like I swore a couple times on that one. But I think comparatively,
right. It was
it's
New York clean, right?
yeah, or like when I do swear on stage is like conversational. So the one show that this kid and his mom came to, it was like a new material night. I was just running an hour, like basically reading from a notebook, of just like trying stuff out, because I had just recorded the special, and it's like, well, now I have to like start over kind of. So I prefer to build material gradually over time, but it's like, well, I need to like try out a lot of jokes at once. Um, so this kid and his mom came, and I told her, it's like, hey, just so you know, like I do usually work clean, but like these are all kind of new. So I don't have like the wording down, so I might slip up. And she's like, we don't care. That's fine. Like because I worried. I'm like, oh, like, does this kid only like me because he found like my dry bar special, which is like a whole company that does clean comedy specials from people. And I know like there's a lot of people who watch dry bar because they only want to watch clean comedy. And I'm like, that's, you do you. But if you, come to see a show that I'm billing as clean, it will be a clean show.
Right.
If you come to just a regular show, I mean, I can't vouch for what anybody else on that show is gonna say, or like I
Right.
might, not be as worried about slipping up and swearing. But it's also like I'm not gonna just do a bunch of like really dirty jokes. It'll just
Right.
be the regular stories where I swear a couple of times.
Yeah. And I
And
that's I don't know, that's really cool because you don't really hear too many kind of comics that are very, cognizant of that. They're just like, whatever happens, happens. But you still have that
somebody,
level of like, you know,
yeah, somebody referred to me as accidentally clean recently, and I'm like,
okay.
yeah, I think that fits. Because like I said, I don't like billing myself as a clean comedian. Like I did a church gig a couple months ago, and a woman emailed me after because she was mad that I mentioned TikTok, which is the work of the devil.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
she's like, and you all you did was talk about poop. I'm like, I didn't say it once. I mentioned that I was potty training my kid.
Yep.
That's as graphic as that story got. And then she's like, and you didn't even testify at the end. And I had to like look up what that meant. She wanted me to like praise Jesus at the end of my set, or like I forget the term, the like born again Christians. I'm like, oh, but that's not me. Like I don't, if that's what you thought you booked, I'm sorry. Like you goofed it. Like
That's
that's
when you
not.
turn it around on her. But like, I saw you laughing at the Hitler joke, though. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
it was an email like weeks later, so it's like I don't know who she, and it wasn't the
Oh,
woman who organized it. It was just the lady in the crowd who was mad,
good
and it's
God.
like that was another one that was like set up like a nightmare because it was
Yeah.
like the end of an event. They had been there since like 3 in the afternoon. The show was supposed to start at 8. They were doing like a big auction, but the
Mhm.
auction wasn't going well. Like nobody was bidding on anything, so it was running long. So the show didn't start till like 9:30. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys have been here for hours and you've just sat through at least 2 hours of an auction that is bombing. And now they're like, all right, we're going to do a 20-minute intermission and then bring up the comic. I was like, no, like that's just like you should have done comedy before the auction. One thing, like during dinner, that's when the comedy should have been. But they didn't tell me about the auction when they booked it, so I couldn't like
Right.
get them to change it. And then yeah, but they're like, I wasn't gonna like lead you in prayer at any point of this. Like if that's what you thought was gonna happen, sorry, but I don't know. My the booking agent that I work with, I'm sure has plenty of Christian comedians he could have pointed you to. Uh I'm not that. I will, I knew it was a church show, so I'm like, I'm not gonna go up there and like do any jokes that I think would upset a church audience. But
Right.
I was surprised to find out that mentioning TikTok would upset at least one lady in the church audience.
Gross.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the stuff that people get upset with after
I'm
shows
not.
because it's like, why that one? Like of the stuff that I talk about, like sometimes there's stuff where it's like I could see how a couple people might object to a line or something. Uh like I do, my wife, we have chickens in our backyard because my wife wanted them for some reason,
Okay.
and I do a story about it in the new special, and in it I talk about a big storm that delayed delivery of some chickens that she had ordered, and it was the storm where like it was like super cold in Texas, and like Ted Cruz left to go to Mexico while everybody was like their pipes were exploding because they were frozen, And I'm like, well, that's the one it was, and it feels like worth noting in this, because to sell the idea of how big of a storm this was. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, it rained, so the postman didn't want to bring the box to the front porch. Like, no, like it was like a historical event, and a way to like drop a pin in it was like kind of throw Ted Cruz under the bus. But like, yeah, remember when he ran away from weather to go to Mexico? I'm like, I could see how like some people, even the thing is, like, even Republicans kind of hate Ted Cruz, so he's a pretty safe target. But it's like when I did that one, it's like, yeah, I've done that and had people complain after shows, like not like angrily. They're like, hey, I didn't like that you made fun of my hero Ted Cruz, a guy everyone likes and respects. And it's like, if you do something like that, it's like, yeah, not everyone is going to be happy with that line, but I don't care. I'm not
Right.
trying to make everyone happy. I'm trying to like make sure everyone is at least having a good time. If you like
Right.
I'm friends with a comedian named Adam Yenser. He's like a real conservative guy. We're like, we don't agree on things politically, but like I acknowledge that he's a really good comedian. So like I will watch him perform, and there's jokes that he has where it's like, I disagree with like the facts of this or like your political opinion about it, but man, that's a good joke. Like you did the work, and like I don't agree with the politics of it, but you're good at comedy, man. And uh, he's never expressly said it, but I assume he feels the same way about me, where he's like, I don't like that line where you made fun of Ted Cruz, but yeah, that's a funny line. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't have to agree with everything I hear a performer say. But then there's also, people who are just up there, full on doing hate speech. It's like, well, you're not even
Yeah.
doing jokes about it. You're just monologuing against a group of people that you hate for some reason. Like, that's different.
Ugh. Well, look, man. Damn, that's fun. Yeah, I've never actually had a comic on here before. I liked it.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. You pop my cherry.
Nice.
I've been in a weird like addiction people kind of thing for a while. Like I've been like a few shows ago was a dude that was addicted to porn.
Okay.
Um, and we actually talked about this with my co-host here like last episode that we did because I text him. I was like, hey, um, interview at 4, uh, porn addict, and like he read it in such a way where it's like, dude, girls are fucking gross when you're 4. I'm like, what? And he was just going on this
Oh,
thing, and I was like, no, he's not addicted to porn when he was 4. It's at 4
yeah.
fucking p.m., dude. What do you?
That took a minute, but
So
I'm like,
like,
he's not a 4-year-old porn addict.
right? I'm like, dude, what? And like that was just like it. Those are the things that happen in my life. They're just ridiculous, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad to get someone that because I mean, I like to get a whole bunch of different people from walks of life, and I like to get as much exposure to them. And with that being said, where can people find you? Give me your stuff, and I'm going to put everything in the show notes as well. But
Sure.
where can we find you? Like, let's get you because like I have a fucking flight to catch at 9, so I got like stuff to listen to. So let's go.
Sure. You can find me at Glen Tickle on all social media, except for Twitter. I bailed months ago off that one.
There,
Uh, but
it's
my
a
my new
dumpster fire on there, but God, it's hilarious.
yeah. Well, when Elon took over, I was like, all right, I'm gonna deactivate my account, and it gives you the option, like you can do it for like you can just delete it forever,
Hmm.
or you can set it where like you can come back within a year and like just you get your account back and everything. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave that one because I want to see if this lasts a year now. And every time I see like news stories about it, it's like I don't think it's making a full year. I don't think it's gonna finish out 2023 before it's just gone, which is sad because I was on there early and used it a lot.
I
Uh,
use it as my marketing platform. Honestly, that's kind of what I use it for, and
yeah.
kind of make connections that way. And then
Well, that
obviously
was
whatever
the
falls
other
there.
reason I left it open for the year is like I am gonna be recording a special and putting it out.
Right.
So maybe when that comes out, I'll like jump back on. But now it just doesn't seem like it would even be worth it to do that. So I don't know. Everywhere
No.
else at Glen Tickle. The special Glen Tickle against the World Crime League is going to be on my YouTube channel on September 15th. And other places after that, but I'm trying to drive everybody to the YouTube channel so I can start putting stuff on there and growing that one.
Yeah, funny enough, we weren't even doing video till like a month ago. And
Yeah, I
I
know
was
a lot of
like,
podcasts
oh,
are
this
switching
is
over to doing
genius.
both now.
Yeah, because
And
I'm like, my viewership went up crazy. I mean, it's still dog shit, but it's like much higher.
yeah.
Because we've only been doing this since Easter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but with that being said, I have like 55 episodes recorded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know. I used to do one with a friend of mine, and during the pandemic, it just got like hard to do. We would do it remotely, but then it didn't feel the same because he's an improviser, so he's like
oh,
used to working like off of people that he's across from, and I'm like, I don't know, I've been doing Zoom shows the whole I'll it makes no difference to me whether we're in person or remote.
yeah,
He preferred in person, but then it's like, well, that was tough, and I have kids, and like it's hard to schedule stuff. We were trying to bring guests on. It's usually just the two of us. It's called Improvised Wikipedia. We would like rewrite a Wikipedia page, but without doing any research about it. And
hmm,
we would try
okay,
to bring on guests, but then like scheduling when he and I could do it, and then also bringing a third person in was just untenable. It's one of the things. Just like we keep talking about bringing it back, and then something comes up and it gets pushed back to when we're actually gonna do it again.
oh
But
yeah,
we did,
scheduling is always a hassle.
yeah, we did a couple like on YouTube Live, um, and it's a fun show to do. I like hanging out with my friend, but then like once you get into the technical stuff of like just scheduling it, and then I'm the one who
Yeah,
edits it and releases it, and it's like I don't know. I got a lot of I've been editing the special since April, and it's like I got a lot of post production work I'm already doing. I don't want to add more.
yeah, no, fair enough.
So hopefully one day improvised Wikipedia will return and I will get to make up dumb stuff with my friend again.
Well, I'm gonna make sure I drive as much traffic to your YouTube as well.
I appreciate it.
Um, because I don't know, I always appreciate entrepreneurs and kind of just following a dream and being good at it. It's awesome to hear, man. And
Yeah, that is
I
one of
really
the other
do.
podcasts that I did was about like business. And I was like, oh, I don't really know anything about business. And then I realized like, well, no, I do actually. Like being a performer, like I am also kind of a small business. Like it's just me
Oh my god,
usually. But
absolutely. You're
it's
your own
like, yeah,
brand, man. Absolutely. Like that. What do you think? What do you think this is? I do all this shit. Like this is what I do.
yeah.
Um, I'm going on vacation and I'm taking my podcast book stuff and I'm going to work on vacation and figure out next shows and this, that, and the other because I'm a crazy person.
Yeah, the episode I listened to was you and your co-host, and you were talking about he was like, "Just take vacation." And you're like, "No, I want to work. I want to do." And it's like that's how I feel about comedy.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, was that the puppy? Was that the puppy one?
I think so.
Oh fuck that. Yeah, yeah. That's the last one we just did. Yeah, I was really
It was
sad.
either the one that just came out or the one before it.
Well,
Um,
I literally uploaded that one this morning, so it's
oh,
like
then
the
no, this was last week. I think when we were first talking online, I
okay.
think it was whatever the most recent one was. Um,
Okay.
because I've been
Uh,
doing a bunch of these to promote the special,
yeah.
and I have like I've been using that Podmatch site where we found
Yeah.
each other, and I also have a PR company like pitching me to other shows, and
Nice.
they will like sometimes Podmatch like one will show up and I'll like listen to it, and then it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this one. It's like it's just or the PR people will reach out and then be like, oh, this guy wants you to have you on a show, and I'll look on like their social media and it's just him like complaining about fat people and how like American dads are too weak, and it's like no thank you.
Yeah.
Hard pass actually.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, I appreciate you, allowing me the opportunity to do this here with you because I don't know how many people actually listen to the show before they do the show. I don't really ever ask that question that much, and for
I
whatever reason, I
usually
did.
like I check everybody out. Like, I think
Yeah.
you just popped up on Podmatch the one day and like the description and everything. I'm like, let me check it out. I listened to the episode, and it's basically, it's not even like, do I like this? Do I want to listen to this every week? It's like, do these people seem like monsters? Do I want to like spend
Fair.
an hour talking to these people? And it's
You
or
have to, man.
like,
People are fucking knucking futs anymore. Like you gotta
yeah, and
screen people.
I have, comedian friends who will like show up on a podcast and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize what this was." I was like, It's pretty
You
easy
gotta
to
do
like
your
look into
homework,
what it
man.
is beforehand."
Because
Uh, you know,
I have people ask me what this podcast is about, and I'm like, dude, it's kind of like, look, I'm a white dude, he's a black dude, and we just kind of cover things, and then we do a silly draft.
yeah.
And okay, like I don't know what, like, some of the stuff is heavy, some of the stuff isn't. It's just kind of conversations between two people, and our perspectives on stuff. And if it can help you, cool. If it makes you laugh, cool. If it doesn't do anything, go fuck yourself. I
Yeah.
don't know what to tell you. Like,
I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts because I, drive and travel so much
right.
for
Yeah.
comedy, and you just need something to fill the time. And one of my favorite ones is just, it's two guys who've been friends since college. They bring on like usually comedians as guests, but sometimes other people. But it is just dumb nonsense for like an hour, and it's not like the theme of it isn't anything. They're just like, it's two people who like each other, who bring on somebody that at least usually one of them knows ahead of time, and
Right.
it's like, it's just, it's the most, especially during the pandemic, where it's just like, I'm not seeing anybody, my wife and kids, for like months at a time, and it's the most like, yeah, you feel like you're talking to friends even though you're not talking, you're just listening to people who are friends. It's like, that's
You build
the
that
show is
connection.
Jordan Jesse Go, if anybody wants to check it out. But it is like one of those things where it's like, if you pop in now, it's probably not going to make a ton of sense, but I've been listening to it for about as long as I've been doing comedy, and
Yeah.
it is just like, I like that it doesn't have a big, like, a there's no game to it. It's not structured. They have like a couple segments that they've introduced as jokes over the years, but like none of it's too serious. And it is like my favorite show to listen to because it is not like, there's shows that I listen to get news. There's shows that I listen to where they're, reviewing video games that I might want to play, where it's like, all right, this is information I'm trying to absorb. Jordan Jesse Go, and at least the episode that I listened to of this one is just like, it's just people just talking to each other. Like, that's great. Like, it's especially, I just drove to and from Nashville like a week ago, and it's like, yeah, I just need something to listen to. And I would rather it be pleasant conversation among people who like each other, rather than like, I don't want to hear people arguing about something. I don't want to hear a debate. I don't want to hear anybody trying to convince me of anything. Just give me all the shows that are just people talking to their friend about how their day went. I will listen to those for years.
If you listen to the one I thought you listened to, did I cover a crazy lady walking up the road screaming how like she was breaking up with this guy, and like just pulled her tits out randomly and started
No, I
screaming?
was I was trying
Oh,
to. The first half of this sounded familiar. I feel like I would have remembered that detail.
yeah.
Uh,
God, I wish I knew which one. Well, all I know is we do silly, like the last draft we did was worst smells. The one before that was best smells. I
yeah,
will tell you, my best smell was gasoline, and my worst smell was other people's fart.
gasoline's a
That's what you're
good.
getting.
When I was a
Gasoline
kid,
smell.
my grandfather had like a
Well, we
ride
can
on
pump our
mower.
own gas, by the way.
Yeah,
Here
I
in Ashland,
don't. And
sure.
the thing is, like, it is so wild to me that people outside of New Jersey think that it's better to not have to pump it. And like, I pump my own gas on the road all the time. I know how to do
Right.
it. But not having to do it is incredible. It's also, that's why gas is cheaper in New Jersey, because the insurance that gas stations have to pay to be able to let anyone just turn on a
Oh.
tube of flammable liquid is
Huh.
so expensive. Uh, and
I
I think
never thought of
Oregon,
that.
I think,
Interesting.
changed recently. Oregon used to be the other one where you couldn't pump your own gas, and I think
Nobody cares about
they
Oregon.
might
I'm
have
sorry.
changed, but I've never been there. Hopefully soon.
There's no one actually in Oregon either, so
Yeah,
it's
sparsely populated. I've been keeping track of all the states that I've performed in, and I've only got like 12 or 13 left that I got to
really
do.
that's impressive.
It's mostly it's the Pacific Northwest, the Dakotas, excuse me, and then a couple states in the South, and then Alaska and Hawaii.
Nice.
But we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. I'll pump gas in all of them. I don't care.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like catching every baseball stadium kind of deal.
Yeah, I have friends who do that, and I as a not sports guy, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like banging a bunch of broads. It's just like a little check mark there.
Again, I don't know. I met my wife when we were 12, so my list is pretty short on that.
Fair enough. Well, look, man, I would love to have you back on at some point.
Oh, anytime. You've been really fun to talk to.
Willing. I'm gonna, upload this today because, I'm very adamant about getting that stuff done, and I am a workaholic.
Yeah, you got a plane to catch. You got stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. We have nothing packed. It's fine. It'll be.
I do. I leave my suitcase half packed of just like stuff that I bring on every trip, just at the foot of the bed because I travel so much. So all I have to do is throw in a couple changes of clothes, and then I'm good.
Oh, I literally just set the stuff on the floor. I was like, "Wife, please handle this because I don't know what you want me to do. Like, dress me. I don't know what the plan is here.
Dress me up like a little Ken doll. What do you want me to wear on vacation?
Right. Just do that because I feel like I don't want to hear it while we're on vacation.
Where you going?
So we're going on a cruise. So
nice.
We're going down to Disney, and we're gonna catch that big new ship. And we kind of are douchey, pretentious cruise people. We go on a cruise like once a year. So,
I have a lot of friends who go on. I've never been on one.
Dude, it's rad. Do it.
I might be going soon as a performer. And
okay, all right.
I'm waiting. I got an email yesterday about it, and I don't know if it's definitely happening, but that'll be my first time.
What cruise line or can you
I'm not sure actually. They just sent me dates and like cities that it leaves from and gets back to, and then to see if I was available. So hopefully it'll happen. I've never been on. I have friends who go all the time, and they're like, "You'll love it. There's so many activities." It's like, oh, I don't want activities. I just want.
No, dude, it can be everything or as little as you want. You could literally just sit there and get drunk by the pool. Or
I'm more of like a cabin in the woods, like leave me alone for a couple days kind of guy.
Yeah, you're not gonna be left alone. I mean, you can find little corners of the ship, but you're on a ship in the middle of like the ocean. So
yeah, a friend of mine does like she goes on like multiple cruises a year and does like social media reviews of like the different. Here's a new thing on Carnival Cruise, or like she does like a lot of influencer stuff about cruises, and she's talking them up all the time. So
hey, do yourself a favor, even if this if that doesn't work out, just book like a weekend thing.
Yeah, I know my kids want to go on the Disney one.
I will tell them this: I don't give a shit if Disney burns to the ground. I don't care.
Me neither.
But I will tell you this:
as a company, it can get leveled tomorrow.
The wife is in love.
Not shed a single tear.
I will tell you this: the Disney cruises are the tits. They are.
It seems really fun for my kids, which would make it
in general. There's like a weird aura of happiness. I don't understand it. It feels very culty, but it is such like a overwhelming. Dude, just do it. I'm telling you, just do the weekend thing. I mean, if not for nothing, the kiddos will love it. But
yeah, I mean, that's why I do most stuff that I don't want to do. It's like, well, I gotta. Like I took the kids to a music festival yesterday that I perform at sometimes, but we just went to like do all the little kid stuff that was there. And it's like, it's hot. I don't wanna, but I'll stand in the sun while you guys play in a bounce house for 20 minutes. Sure, like that's.
Yeah, I kind of wish the area wasn't going to like 106 degree. Like I'm not stoked about that, but.
And it's tropical, so you can't even use it's a dry heat excuse. That's a wet, nasty heat. That's where you're going.
Yeah, super thrilled. So,
but we'll have fun. I hope you enjoy it more than I probably would.
Yeah, I mean,
but again, it's one of those things where it's like, I will probably do cruise ships as a comedian. Like that's, a pretty common gig that
Yeah.
I hear pays
Yeah, they
pretty
got
well. So
yeah,
hopefully
they
it works out.
yeah, they have shows. They have shows every night, multiple shows throughout the day. So yeah, it's definitely a super common thing. Plus, you
Yeah.
get to
I have a
go
lot of
and
friends who
promote.
do them. A guy that I recorded my dry bar with the same night, he's on cruises all the time, and he'll be gone for like 2 or 3 months at a time on a boat. And he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, you should do it." And it's like, I got young kids. I don't want to be gone for 2 or 3 months. He's
yeah,
like, my kids are in their 20s and don't like me, so I'll be gone forever.
right.
I would
It's like
rather
no
be
one's
sitting
gonna
on a
miss me
boat.
if I don't come back. It's cool.
Yeah. He's like, I'd rather go hang out on a beach and smoke a cigar than be home. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fair, but I would rather be home with my kids.
Well,
That's
here's
why I
what
like
I'd
doing
say,
stuff
man.
like podcasts and virtual shows. It's like, yeah, I can do
Oh my
this
god,
from here.
you can just hang out and do whatever you want. I'm mildly debating doing a show from the boat because I'm broken inside. So yeah, here's the plan here. I'm gonna send you the Calendarly link again. I can't
Yeah.
say that.
Calendly, it's a bad title.
Calendy.
The
Okay,
site's
yeah,
great. I love the tool. Fantastic.
yeah,
Like
it's
the
beautiful. Just the
functionality of it,
name's
incredible.
terrible.
The name's
Right.
dumb. It's too many
So
L's.
whenever you got time and you want to schedule something in there, that's perfect. I'm gonna upload this today. I'm gonna get the audio version and the audio and video version sent back to you. Send
Yeah,
me any extra stuff that you want me to put in the show notes. Zero qualms doing that, and I will send you my stuff if you want it. Do with it what you
Sure.
will.
Yeah. Send
I
it
just
and
appreciate you taking the time out.
I'll share it out. Thanks for having me. I had a
Hey,
great time.
well, I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna go figure out how to do vacation stuff correctly, so
Yeah.
I don't,
Good luck. I hope you have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy the boat.
All right,
Take it
buddy. I
easy, man.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You too.